My name's Wyatt, or itskeyexe. I'm the developer of Twilight Requiem. And in this video, I want to have a raw conversation about my experience over the course of this last year as an indie game dev. A little bit about me. I have a 2 year in software development. I mostly wrote in C Sharp and Swift for mobile development. Last year, I was expecting my first child. I'm happily a new father of a little baby girl. But what I ended up doing was I wanted side income, and I had heard indie dev, was something to dabble in to make some side income. So I took this really professionally with my 2 year degree in software development. I just went ahead and started playing with the Unity engine. I had already been writing several different programs and apps before. No commercial successes, but I did launch an app on the Apple App Store. And then I had some failed projects as well. But I got into this and it just all really, really clicked. I was working overnights at the time. And the very first thing that I did is obviously wrote my idea down for Twilight Requiem. I had seen a need in the indie game market for that kind of that nostalgic PS2 style of game. And I knew what I wanted to make. Kingdom Hearts 2 is my absolute favorite action RPG, probably favorite action adventure of all time in that style. But I had been playing Elden Ring on my days off of my overnight shifts. I fell in love with the atmosphere of that. And while dabbling in the Unity space and coding more, as we were waiting for my daughter to arrive, I decided to make the switch into indie dev. And the very first thing I did was probably deployed my current skills to write down and document my ideas. I had been listening to podcasters like Thomas Brush, super, super great resource there. Just about tips and tricks, how to get started. The first thing is to write the idea down, obviously, but make something you want to play because I feel like that's been my biggest motivator. I was playing Elden Ring, loved the story there. Kingdom Hearts 2, that PS2, and I had this idea for a cosmic warrior, right, to save the universe. So I jotted down my idea and my story, and the very first thing I did was I knew that it would be an action RPG. So figure out what kind of game you want to make. The first thing that I ended up doing was I went to udemy.com. I found this Unity third person combat and traversal. With my background in some software development, I figured I could take an intermediate to hard class and follow along. This ended up being one of the best things for me, though. I got, professionally introduced to the engine, right? And making a third person controller, figuring out how to be comfortable with Unity. It even skipped through and kind of gave some environmental tips. Once I completed that course, I took the course that I had completed, the project, bare bones project they gave us. I ported it into Unity, and from there I started customizing what I had learned from, because then I had already physically made my player controller. I knew what kind of game I wanted to do, and then from there it was writing out my documents. Once I had a prototype base foundation, literally a base for a foundation, basically just a character controller getting fully integrated with Unity. But from there, once I actually knew what my story idea was and I had some little sketches and stuff, I went ahead and I got a little bit of art commissioned as I was moving through prototyping my game. And what I did was I threw up a website instantly with SEO just to have some marketability, right? So um, once I knew that that was, live and I could show a product, then when I started talking about it in person with people, um, they would catch on and they would see the idea that I had been working on. This is about probably 2, 3 months in after completing the course. I had a functional prototype. So we're going to try to pull up some footage here real quick. I just want to make sure it's up. So I had a web page for the product that I knew I was trying to make. I had a prototype. I had all my ideas written down, and I was learning from other podcasters so I didn't fall into their mistakes. I did not do everything perfect, but I would say I'm in a pretty good spot right now for a first time going for commercial release. As you can see here, um, the game started off really, really rough, right? Um, where did that go? There we go. So it started off really, really rough. This is my prototype here. And just you can see the roughness of the character controller. Once I had this prototype down, I started asking personal friends, my fiance, what do you think of this? Does this character controller feel fun? Does it look what I'm talking about, what I want to make? Um, and I got a little bit of product validation pretty quickly. And I think that's important because you don't really, unless you're just doing it for fun and on the side, it's not really going to go to anybody with but other friends, whatever. Get your product validated because I feel like if somebody can see what your product is instantly and connect with it, that is super, super huge. So once I had my website up, I had some proof of concept with my prototype. I went ahead and commissioned some artwork, some drawings, some stuff that I couldn't do. What really helped is in my day job, I was a manager. So delegating out tasks in the right areas, I used websites like Fiverr and Upwork to have a safe contract for work. Um, negotiating rights and contracts to own this artwork after they had completed it. The nicest thing was the tax write-off for running a small business, which indie game dev is obviously a business. So once I started getting art commissioned, I'd constantly update the website as I'm working through polishing the prototype. I was going for a vertical slice. I ended up getting, mostly like, I would say a playtest build. I wouldn't say like a demo. I would say a very hybridized, very somewhat polished prototype. Um, and what we can see here is just like I had learned how to put an environment together, build it out, and it was really pretty. Another downfall here too, something I did wrong was not really having clear art direction. I had an anime character as my main protagonist. I was obviously world building and building here. My idea was, what if it was Elden Ring style architecture, which is very realistic, stylized realistic, but a very certain kind. And it was kind of clashing with the anime girl, so I changed my art direction to PS2 stylized. And once I changed my art direction, I started building out the full game after I had some people test the prototype. Um, from there, I ended up throwing up a Steam page rather quickly because in the what I had learned was getting the product out there, showing that it's something you're continually working on throughout the year is good for fans. And as you can see, we're a lot more polished than what I was showing earlier. The game is even more polished than what you see here, but this at least gets you on the map. So in game dev, you're going to be wearing a lot of hats. And one thing that helps when you're wearing a lot of hats, and you're juggling is to do spirals, you know, as you're building it out. Maybe you need to touch the character prefab. Maybe you need to touch up the environment just a little bit. Maybe you want to work on this system or that system. Uh, you don't have to do it alone, but if you kind of circularly work around, you're just going to continuously refine. I think something that's really surprised me is how much I thought something would be finalized in the game, working fast, like, oh, this level is totally done and it's going to stay forever, right? No. You're going to be constantly reiterating, and things and scenes and systems will become slightly outdated where they need a new polish or to be replaced entirely. So you're going to constantly be churning the grindstone of like better and better looking game. There's definitely probably at least 10 different levels and scenes and things I thought would make it into the final game that are getting cut. A lot of people say start small, and I think that's beautiful. I think it's a good idea to start small. I took on a fairly large project as my first one because I had made other products in the past, um, and had failed projects as well. So this is like proving to myself that I can do it and want to do it. So I think we're nailing the art direction for that PS2 style look. Let me just check my notes here really quick because I know I'm kind of rambling, but I just want to give you guys absolutely everything. I think, right now where the game is, we hit 530 wish lists on the game. It's got over 300,000 impressions. With us getting up that Steam page so early, we're actually churning into the market, and from what I can tell, there's a natural want for this kind of nostalgia. I feel like the AAA industry hasn't really come out with anything um, that hasn't been like already done before, and I wanted to tailor and hail back to that PS2 era. Starting small is okay. I definitely bit off more than I could chew. I thought I could get this done in like 6 months. Okay. I really thought that 6 months I was going to do it. My baby girl would be born and I already have like a product out there. It's more realistically going to be like a year and a half. Hopefully, with where it sits, the game is about to get a professional demo posted to Steam is where we're at. It'll probably take another milestone or two with my dev. A lot of work by me, a lot of sleepless nights. But as a new father, we're rocking it. Rocking it. If you start small and you understand that building out systems for your game and which systems to build and how a state machine works and how the editor works, you're going to be way better off for when that big idea comes. Like this one, I could not ignore this idea. This was keeping me up at night. This was constantly like a little itch in the back of my head, like, hey, what if a game was like this? And I could not ignore it. So I got to work early, prototype, got confirmation, marketing early marketing, even if it feels embarrassing. The way the game looks now versus how it used to look is night and day. And I look back at some of the old footage and I'm just like, what did I think I was doing? Um, One mistake of mine is I don't do enough of documentation. I did in the beginning. I did really well with documentation. My documentation needs to get better. That's one of my pitfalls right now. But what we're aiming for is getting a demo out on Steam for Next Fest and then using the summer for feedback, polish, finalizing the game. We're going to go to a couple conventions and we're going to show off Twilight Requiem. The link to the Steam page will be in here. Off the top of my head, to be honest with you, I know I've been rambling. I hope that you found value in this. This is just kind of my experience over the last year. We're in a super, super strong position. The game has probably at least 15 levels plus. Many systems are pretty much finished and finalized. We're probably 60% of the way through, which is right on track. So some big pushes, some big milestones. We'll cross that finish line. We hope to get 1,000 to 5,000 wish lists before launch. The release date's to be determined. I hope you found value in this. If you're getting into game dev, build out your prototype first. Get your idea validated. If you want to be commercial, treat it as commercial. Market early. Don't scope too big. And follow that creative dream. If you can't sleep at night, go after it. It's been Wyatt, or itskeyexe. I hope you found value in this. Have a good one.